Hey everyone, this is Crystal, aka Sauce.
And this is Tanya, aka Season. Welcome to Sauce and Season, a podcast dedicated to real people to provide real talk and real healing on various topics. We are both wives, moms, entrepreneurs, and business professionals. Our hope is that through these topics and experiences we share, we can gain new insight for ourselves and provide new insights for others. We are excited that you decided to join us as we take this wild roller coaster ride that we call life together and hope that you stick around. Hey guys, welcome back to Sauce and Season with Sauce and Season. I'm Season.
I'm Sauce, and it's been a while, so we definitely wanted to come back and say a few things with us, kind of closing out the year 2020 and it coming to be Christmas time. We definitely wanted to get back in the swing of Sauce and Season podcast.
We're sorry that we've been absent so long, but as everybody knows, the pandemic hit the world. Correct. So the pandemic even hit our home. And so we had to pull back, take some time and do some things and be obedient to God and the things He was telling us to do in this season. So we're sorry we've been away, but we're back. Yes. We don't know how this is going to go with the new season. Crystal's showing off her shirt. This is mine. This is mine. This is mine. So today we just want to talk a little bit about 2020 and what has happened in this year for each of us. When we came into 2020, we know that we were different than who we are now. I know for myself, there has been challenges. A lot of people came into 2020, the New Year's resolutions and this is what the 2020 is going to be. So this is our theme for the year. And a lot of the themes was 2020 vision. I can tell you this, a lot of people got into 2020 and started saying, boy, our glasses are like bifocals because obviously our 2020 vision is perfect. It's a perfect, it is off, but it's a perfect vision because, boy, we seeing everything, right? So I think in this year, we have seen a lot. And so today we just want to share a little bit of what we've gone through and then maybe cause you to think a little bit, leave you with something to think about, whether it's a spiritual thing or just, what happened to you in 2020? Chris?
No, for me, I would say 2020 did not start off great anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like 2020 has just been the year of back-to-back stuff. Right. Like no breathing room. The moment you feel like you're breathing, it's like something else happens, right? Right. So for me, 2020 started off rough just because I was dealing with a lot, trying to get things together personal life-wise. And then you get hit with Kobe. Then you get hit with COVID. Then you get hit with this person dying. Then you get hit with this person getting sick. And it's like, there has not been a moment I can say personally where I felt like 2020 I could breathe. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like 2020 has been so great too. Yeah. Because as much as it has not had its great moments and it's had a lot of rough moments, to be quite honest, it's had a lot of blessed moments for me. Yes. I feel like 2020 has forced me to push myself. Yes. It has forced me to stay motivated. Yes. It has forced me to keep going. Right. Some of the major things for me that I've been learning in 2020 is to stay the course. That's good. To not give up and to continue moving, continue fighting. The reason why I say that is because everything is kind of happening left and right. Things are getting hit. Like we're getting hit with these different things. Right. Yet I'm also getting blessed with a lot of things. Right. This is the year that I kind of launched my business a little bit more. This is the year where school, I kind of got into next steps in my dissertation. This is the year where baby girl had her first birthday. Like all these different things, as bad as 2020 has had its moments, it has made me say, you know what, you have to stay the course. You have to stay motivated. You have to stay energized because there's still room for improvement. Even with us, our business has fully launched in 2020. And that's part of the reason why we had to do a pause on Sauce and Season because business-wise, there was some other things that we were trying to work on. And our business is starting to bloom and blossom to where we had to put our focus in that. But, overall, despite the challenges, 2020 has also been, I feel like, a blessing in disguise in its own way. Yeah. Even though there's a lot of things that I really would want to change, but I'm not that person who's saying, get rid of 2020. I'm ready for 2021. Yeah. I'm not ready. I'm not canceling 2020 and getting ready for 2021 until I know how 2020 ended. Correct. Because if 2021 is going to start off like 2020, I'm good. I don't need the same thing. So
I think we can't cancel what God created. Yeah. Right. So regardless of what we see in the earth, we have to realize that 2020 is God's year like any other year, right? Mm-hmm. It's on the calendar. It's something that he put on the schedule and we can't take away from it, right? So we have to take this year and figure out what do we learn in this time. Because we can either be people who see the cup half empty or half full. I know for me, there's been a lot. I mean, I think on your dad's side, they got hit with a lot of things, losing family members. Then on my side, there's been some things that have been going on in my own family. Then personally in our family, there are things been going on, business challenges and things like that. But in this year, we have been blessed. I can truly say that despite all, we've been kept. At the beginning of this, I didn't know what was going to happen because my husband works for the airlines. So he got hit, okay? And I don't work full-time. I'm part-time, plus we're trying to launch our business privately, which means I'm an entrepreneur, right? So he carries the weight of income in the house. But I can truly say that God has blessed us. Is it perfect? No, but we've made it. We haven't missed a meal. We still are in our home. There are challenges, but we still have a car to get around Georgia because in Georgia, you can't just get around unless you live somewhere in the city. You got to drive. Unless you're in Atlanta, right? So with that being said, I think we have to refocus. I hear a lot of people talking about cancel 2020. No, what did we learn in 2020? I know it was rough. I know it's been hard. It's not been easy for any of us. But in 2020, what did we learn? I know Crystal talked about a little bit of what she learned for herself. And for those of you who don't know us, our names are Tanya
and Crystal.
Seasoned in sauce or sauced in season, whichever way you want to take it. And there's a story behind that, and we'll tell that in a later episode. But we want to just, remember that we have to remember the blessings we have. We can't just go into the next year talking about, 2021, if it starts off bad, we're going to cancel that too. We can't cancel everything. The Bible talks about the fact that everything has a purpose, right? Everything has a plan. Ecclesiastes, I believe, talks about there's a season for this and a season for that. And I'm paraphrasing. This is Tanya's phrase, not the Bible, so please go read. But in Ecclesiastes, it talks about that. There's a season for everything, a season to mourn, a season to celebrate. There's a season for death. There's a season for life. There are seasons. 2020 was the year of a season. I don't know what we call this season. I think rough season. It will all fall wrapped up in one. But we all can sit down and think about what we learned from this. So I know you talked a little bit about what you learned. I know for me, I learned about me, right? So I learned that I still had a lot of pride that God was trying to get rid of. I still lacked full surrender. Sometimes you can throw your hands up in the air and say, Lord, I surrender. But did you really? And so I learned in this season that I really had not surrendered everything to God. And I also learned how to begin to really walk out surrenderance. Because I'm realizing surrender, you walk it out in relationship. And I think I've heard people again and again talk about in 2020, they've gotten closer to people or they've renewed friendships. That's relationship. I think in this season, God was dealing with a lot of relationship, being still, being quiet, being obedient, following through on the things that we have to do. So that's some of what I learned. What about you?
I was going to say, as you talk about relationships, I will agree. I think 2020 has been the year of relationships in general, but not just on the good side.
Right.
I think the good side of it, it's forced people to recognize what's important to them and to who's important to them and why they're important to them. And it's gotten us back to, back in the day regarding making contact and really trying to make honest contact. And everybody that I've come in contact with has talked about, wanting to feel connected with their family and 2020 forcing them to recognize that they were missing out or acknowledging that they missed out on a lot of opportunities with family because they were working or this and the third. And now people are setting up Zoom family meetings and, Zoom dinners,
across the country.
Sunday dinner, correct. And I feel like that's the good side of 2020. 2020 has forced people to recognize hey, family's important, friends are important. How do you still stay connected, even though our lives are busy, even though we have a lot of things going on? How do you still stay connected to family? But on the flip side of it, I feel like 2020 has forced people to identify the relationships around them.
That's a good one. Yes, I was just thinking that.
Choosing positive or negative. So I love everybody's newfound. I gotta have family in my life and all this. But I feel like 2020 has forced so many people to recognize, hey, that person that's next to you, how great is that relationship?
Is that a benefit?
It's forced people to look at their marriages and their boyfriend-girlfriend relationships that they have going on and relationships they have with their children and all these different things. And I feel like a lot of relationships have been challenged because a lot of people are not in healthy relationships, and 2020 is bringing that out. And you can't hide it because you're stuck in the house quarantined with somebody that, secretly every day y'all have so much things going on pre-COVID that you were able to escape each other and to get away from things and not worry about each other. But now, post-COVID, you can't do that. You can't, I won't even say post-COVID because we're still in COVID. So during COVID, you can't do that because quarantine together, like you have to be with each other. You have to talk to each other. You have to see each other. And so now that's bringing up baggage or bringing up unspoken anger or bringing up things that y'all never shared that would really fracture a relationship and is not healthy for a relationship. But y'all spent so much time not dealing with it and y'all had the opportunity to. That now I feel like 2020 has forced people to look, at the person next to them and say, is this a relationship that I want? Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because me being a therapist, I have gotten a boost in clientele just on the side of relationship struggles. Yeah. And you would think that I got people that been in a relationship for a year or so. No, I have clients that have been in a relationship for 5 years. I have clients that have been in a marriage for 20 years, 23 years. And I'm like, wow. And, you're struggling with your marriage or you're realizing that you don't feel loved by your husband or these different scenarios. And I feel like 2020 has forced people to really take an acknowledgement of what's important, why is it important, then who's next to you, and is that person just as important to you and healthy for you as much as that too.
Do you think that in the process of that too, people have learned how to not just look at the person next to them, but look at themselves? Because I think that in this season, it has also forced people to have a conversation. Yeah. Like you said, they could run away from it before. Now you have to sit down and have the real conversations. It can't be sugar-coated and it can't be surface. I think I look at even us with the business, and I think this week we learned something in our business relationship. We learned that you are not as tough as me.
I never tried to be. People don't know that.
Right. And people will see Crystal and think that she's just cold-hearted. And that, no, she's the soft one in the group. Because there's been some things we've had to focus on, and I had to be the one to take the reins. Yeah. And you were like, Mom, just, whoa.
Calm down, girl.
Calm down.
Calm down. But then she has to be that. Correct. She has to be the bad guy because secretly everybody thinks I'm the bad guy. But I'm the good guy. Like, if I'm the bad guy, you did something. Just put that out there. She's just a bad guy.
Nah, but I'm about business. When it comes to business, and I feel like, there's a time for play, there's a time for business, there's a time for everything. But when it comes to my livelihood, we need to make sure all the wheels are turning correctly. And so we learned that about our relationship just this week.
I agree.
Where we fit in the dynamics of our business. And we did launch our business as Resilient Focused Family Therapy. Woo! I am the speech therapist and she's the counselor.
Mental health therapist, counselor, LPC, all the names of the above.
Right. So with that being said, we have to put things in place. I've also learned in this season delegation. I've learned to take back my own health and not allow myself to be overworked in this season. Mentally, physically, spiritually, I've learned to take back what belongs to me in 2020.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think delegation is something I've also learned. And it's funny because for my main job, my boss asked us as a group to kind of go around and share what 2020 has kind of taught us, even though it's negative. What has it taught us? And mine, what I said was that 2020 taught me to practice what I preach. I preach to my supervisees that are under me because I'm a leader, a lead therapist at my main job. I preach to my clients at my second job. I preach to everybody to, take self-care and recently, with the high increase of stress level and anxiety, I've gotten even a boost in clientele with anxiety. Like, my clientele for anxiety is like crazy right now because people are so stressed out, not just with COVID, but being stuck in the house that force you to recognize that, all these demons are now coming up that you never dealt with because you have no choice because you're in the house 24/7. And one of the things that I've learned is that I would overwork myself or do a lot for myself, that I had a hard time delegating. And so I told my group that I've learned to practice what I preach. Yeah. I tell people to take time. I tell people to do self-care. I tell people to, do mindfulness and grounding skills and all these different things. But am I doing it myself? Yeah. Am I looking at that myself? And I've recently told a client, one of the reasons why we have such an increase in stress and anxiety is because we do not delegate. we feel like we have to do everything on our own
Yeah.
because either it's not going to get done or it's not going to get done the way that
Well,
we want it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that may be true, but then you're burning yourself out trying to do everything.
Right.
You're burning yourself out trying to be a type A personality and try to have, everything that you need to have. And especially for my women, let's be honest, as women, we are the superwoman. We're supposed to have everything together,
right.
Juggle the baby, help the husband,
right.
cook the dinner,
right.
clean the house, go work. Because nowadays, sometimes you need that 2 income. It's not like back in the day when one
right.
person carried the weight. So you're expected to do all this and be this super woman and phenomenal woman and Proverbs 31 woman and all these different things that you burn yourself out trying to be all of that and the above, when you need to look at it and say, what can I delegate?
Right.
So my clients that have anxiety and that's been having stress, that's been our main conversation. Okay, when you're stressed, you need to look at it from different ways.
Right.
What can you keep and what do you need to keep?
Mm-hmm.
What can you give away?
Mm-hmm.
And what you just need to take off your table?
Yeah.
What can I give away? Meaning, yes, it may hurt me because I feel like I could do it, but really taking an honest reflection and saying, can somebody else really do the job?
Right.
And if that answer is yes, then can you delegate it?
Yeah.
What can you keep for yourself? What, in all honesty, do you feel like you need to keep? And then the last one is, what can just get off your table? Because we have so many things that's on our table that we don't even need. Like, can I just get rid of it? So we need to be at that stage of delegation, of looking at, what can I keep? What can I give away? And what do I need to just remove from my table? So I feel like everybody across the board is feeling that.
Yeah.
And you made a comment that I want to touch on, talking about, yourself, and 2020 has also forced you to kind of take a reflection on yourself. And I do agree. I feel like 2020 has forced people to take a reflection at themselves. But I think their first instinct is always the other person.
Yeah.
And then it's like that reflection of who am I? So like even clients that come to me, it's my husband did, or my mate did, or this person did, and this is this. And then when we get into it, it's like, okay. And as we dig deep, they realize, oh man, like, oh, it's me. Like, I'm allowing them to have control over my emotions, or I've never told them how this made me feel, or I've never communicated this. And all these different things they're recognizing, like, hey, looking at the man in the mirror.
What did you do?
A lot of this ain't even about that person. It's really about what I have not said or have not dealt with and have not understood is important for me to fix, because it can't be falling on everybody else either.
Correct. I think that, one of the things, I was talking to your brother, and I was talking to him about me, and I was talking about the fact that I'm 47 this year, and we were talking about a friend that was having a rough time. And the advice and when you talk about practice what you preach, that's what made me think of this. The advice I gave him was, that person can't live in that place or in that past that hurt. They have to move forward. Mm-hmm. And in that very moment, it went back to the thought I had about checking yourself. Because I realized I said that for that person, yet I had spent so many years, I wasted time being stuck in a season of life that was now history. It had passed, and I couldn't move forward. So in this season, God has shown me the hurdles I've crossed. Mm-hmm. He's shown me where he's taken me from, living in this place to now in more of a blessed place, mentally, spiritually, and now I'm trying to definitely do it physically, making better choices for how I eat, sleeping better, making a decision about, do I want to do this? Like you said, take things off your plate. Do I want to do this, or do I want to do that? Do I want to continue with this? Not because somebody told me I should. Correct. Is this something that I think is beneficial to my life? And I think that's 2020 has given us vision. 2020 vision and hindsight. So everybody came out with that, and they didn't realize what they were saying. Sometimes we say things because the Spirit of God is unctioning us to say stuff. Our spirit man is saying, this is it. But we don't really understand what God is saying. So everybody was hype off 2020 vision and didn't know how that was going to come about. I look at even, America. This last election cycle, along with the pandemic, has shaken loose bones in America. Things that have been hidden for years, right? And now people have to deal with it. It's brought things to the top that's causing people to hurt, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the hidden ills in our society, because the world looks at us as a savior. We are not. We are not. We cannot take that title from God himself, right? And so now God is shaking the bones and saying, okay, here we go, people. Here we go. Because if my people who are called by my name, here we go, right? So we gotta take perspective on the year, and I don't think it's a year to be thrown away. I think it's a year that it will be very valuable in the years to come if we took the time to think about it.
No, I agree, and I think along that same lines, 2020 has been the year of stepping out.
That's a good one.
There is so many people who have stepped out. Some because they had no choice.
Yeah.
Some because they just realized this was the best time.
Right.
And I feel like 2020 has forced people to launch themselves, to
Yeah.
step out, some on faith.
Yeah.
Without even having it. So many people have started businesses, and shout out to y'all. So many people stepped out and got a new career.
Right.
So many people had no choice because they were laid off. And,
correct.
all these different things. 2020 has forced people to get on their hustle and grind.
Yeah.
Like to trust the process, to trust God, and
right.
to step out.
Right.
And that's never an easy thing. It's never easy to step out, especially when you don't know how to, or don't know,
right.
You spending your last $20 on
right.
trying to launch something, or 2020 has just been that year where you either step out on faith or you burn, because it's been that year where you really don't have many options.
Yeah.
You have to do one or two things, and sort of speak, to survive. And I feel like that is actually a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because so many people are realizing, hey, I could have done this a long time ago.
Right.
Like I know plenty of people who have stepped out and started businesses, and their businesses are booming.
Yeah.
But they would have never done that.
If they were
correct, if they were never forced to do it. They
right.
would have never done it. And I feel like that's the blessing in disguise.
Right.
And despite all the negatives of 2020, I've seen people be able to get loans and get these grants and different things that's coming out. And that's a blessing.
Right.
Like despite how you get it, it's a blessing. And I feel like that has been what I've been seeing, is just forcing people to step out in communication.
Right. Right.
Communication has been another major thing that I have seen.
That's true.
In 2020. It has forced people to talk.
Yeah.
Talk to the person in your house.
So good.
Talk to people that you haven't talked to. Talk to people at your job.
Right.
Talk to people here. Talk to people there.
Use your words.
Use your
words.
I
say all the time. Use your words.
Communicate.
Right.
Like it has taught that. And I've been, as much as I've been having clients that need relationship counseling and counseling on anxiety and stress, I've had a lot of clients that just need counseling on how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
How do I share how I feel in the right way that's not going to cause harm, but at the same time is not making me feel like I can never express how I feel and share what's on my heart. And I feel like communication has been that next major thing that people have just been forced to try to really do in 2020. Learn how to just communicate.
Right.
And that's not always easy for people.
It's not easy because I don't think as a society we've been taught how to talk to one another and express whether it's your, like we talked about, with the business. From being a speech therapist, I've learned how to communicate with people. So I've learned how to say what I want to say in an appropriate manner to get the results I need. Now, before I became a therapist and before I matured in life, the way I said it wasn't always the best way. And I have a child that represents me well. But I've learned in life, you're so funny. I've learned in life how to communicate. Communication is a valuable piece of relationship.
It is.
I think for me, another place that communication is fit for me is with God. I've taken this time now to read my word, not say a little bit more. For those that don't know, I do minister. I was ordained at one point in time to minister. And I had my own challenges. And 2020 brought up those challenges I had before to bring me to a place now to really communicate that pain with God. Where I thought I surrendered that pain, I did not. So I've learned to communicate with God in a different way than how I originally learned. And that's a deep place to be, because when you don't have the, God is supposed to be like a father. So when you don't have that relationship with your own father, you don't necessarily know how to go to God, right? Because you're going to put God in the same box you put your father in if you're that person who had those types of issues. Everybody doesn't. And I thank God for it, because your father showed me a different type of father when it comes to you guys. And so communication, I learned to communicate with God like my father for real in 2020. To be okay with speaking to him and hearing what he had to say back in my spirit.
Yeah. And I think, along those lines, 2020 with people when it comes to communication with God, you've had no choice.
Woo!
Because you no longer have
Who else you talking to?
you no longer have the opportunity to go to church and sit
Right,
in the pews
right, and just hear.
sit in the congregation,
Right.
ask Sister So for a word, and
Right,
go to Pastor So and ask her to pray for you.
Right.
You can probably call him and do that, but so many people have now had to. You have no choice but to seek him for yourself.
Correct.
Because you're not going to get your Sunday feel in that same type of manner, like it's online and all these different things. And for people who are not online people, you may not feel as connected in these different things. So you have no choice but to communicate to God for yourself.
Yeah.
And I look at it for what makes me think about that even more is our people who had to go to the hospital.
Oh yeah.
And you can't have nobody with you.
Yeah.
You have yourself in that room, and you have to pray yourself through. And I feel like that has forced so many people to communicate to God on your own because you really don't have no choice. I just feel like 2020 has forced things.
Right.
It has forced you to look at your relationship. It has forced you to communicate. It has forced you to step out in businesses. It has forced you to take accountability. 2020 has just been the year of forcing. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing per se, because I feel like if a lot of things was not forced, people would not have stepped out. People would not have acknowledged some of the deficits in their relationships. People would not have acknowledged some of the deficits in themselves. Like you mentioned, I have clients that have come to me wanting to deal with stuff from years past. That they haven't dealt with, and being quarantined, it's like it's hitting them left and right, that they can't escape it. And I feel like 2020 has forced people to really take accountability and ownership and say, I have baggage. I need to weigh out my baggage, but also I have things that I want to accomplish that I need to do, or I have this that I need to step up and do, or I need to communicate better in this area, or my relationship with God has to be this way. I feel like it has just forced you to really take inner reflection on so many categories of your life.
That was good because I thought about something. So like last year, right, we bought that calendar and we sat down and we put in this calendar. That was, I think 2020 agendas, calendars, those were the most wasted.
But it's like yes and no.
But
yes and no. Because
I agree.
As I look back, because I know you was going to go along with our vision board. We did vision board, and I look back.
But no, the vision board is different.
I accomplished some things.
That was different. But that calendar, because we have put in, on that calendar, we're going to do this on that day and this on that time. Not the vision board. Because I can go back on my vision board and there's so much stuff.
Off. Boop, boop,
yes, I was able to. Business, entrepreneurship, speaking, engagements. I was like, what?
But calendar-wise.
But that calendar-wise of saying, I'm going to do this. And you said something that made me think about it, but I can't remember what. But that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And God said, poof, no, you're not.
Facts.
You're going to do this and this.
No going to Hawaii.
And no going to Hawaii because I was planning on going back.
No going to Canada for me.
No Canada. Poof, this is what you're going to do.
No going to Florida for me.
None of that. So
I had a lot of trips planned, y'all.
A lot.
Every month I had a trip.
A lot. But how often do we do that? We make plans that God is not even involved in and expect that he's going to come back and make it work because we said it.
And we want it.
We want it. Like little spoiled brats. In 2020, he told us, okay, brat, I'm about to deal with you. None of that, Rugrat. None of that, Rugrat. So you say, Angelica. So you say.
They always call me Angelica, and I'm so nice. They will always say that's the Rugrat I was.
That's a whole nother topic for a whole different day.
Ooh, they messed up the rudeness.
But yeah, this in 2020, we truly learned how to just sit still, listen, and follow his lead. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's our homework. We're about to go into 2021 and everybody's like, woo, 2020 is behind me. No, because then you cancel out everything you learn. I know I've been sitting here, I'm writing a list and I'm saying what I learned and I'm talking to myself, then wrote in Sharpie marker and everything. What did I learn? That's a lot of learning on these 3 little pages, right? There's a lot I learned. But if I go ahead and say, cancel it out, then I just nixed out everything. It's like, I have a former leader that used to always say something, and it always blessed me. You could say, Tanya, Andrew, Keyshawn, Karen, Keenan, but. So what I just did when I inserted that but, I just canceled out all those names. So I could call those names before the Lord and then say, but, ... No, so why throw my but in there? That but is, I want 2020 to go away. That's where you're inserting a but. No, eliminate the but. You can truly say, and nobody's saying don't say it. God, 2020 was a rough year, right?
A sad year,
a devastating year,
an anxious year, a stressful year
for so many people.
Yeah.
However, what did you learn in this year? Right? I'm too blessed to remain stressed.
Yep. Come through shirt.
Come through shirt.
Favor.
So I got favor. But I got to remember how God blessed me in 2020, going into 2021, because when those hurdles hit in 2021, I got to look back at 2020 and say, but God. What did God just do when I inserted that button and say, but God? He canceled all that out. Oh, he canceled out every bit of negativity. Okay, y'all better stop. Okay, back to Chris, because, why?
No, for real, though. That you're right about everything that you're saying. And I think it's funny because, for this year, so much has happened. And it reminds me, as you was talking, and you're talking about, you want to cancel things, but yet there's something that we learn from it. That's what I talk about in my therapy sessions with my clients who are, talking about trauma. Right. Or they're talking about forgetting or forgive and forget. That's usually just saying forgive and forget. And I've never been a believer in just completely forgive and forget. I don't believe that you forget everything. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the reason why you don't forget everything is sometimes it is a lesson for you in that situation that happened, to where whether that lesson is to be more safe, or what can you do to watch your surroundings, or who do you need to make sure you're around and not around. But I'm a big believer in forgiving. But I feel like it's all about how do you do it. You don't forgive and forget and just act like nothing that happened. Right. But you do forgive and forget, meaning that you don't allow it to still hold you hostage. Right. And that's the difference. And I feel like a lot of people who I've been counseling, we've been having to talk about those things. Like, how do you forgive and how do you forget in some ways the things that have happened to you, but still learn how to move forward. Yeah. And I feel like that's the same thing as, I want to cancel this thing out. Right. No, you can't cancel it out because it happened. It happened. Right. So now we got to take ownership and say it happened, and we have to acknowledge that it happened. But just because it happened does not mean it has to continue happening. Just because it happened does not mean you cannot move forward. Correct. Just because it happened does not mean you have to be held hostage. Correct. And I feel like that's the same thing even with traumas and things that we've been through. We try to forgive and forget, so to speak, and don't deal with it. And don't really forgive and forget. Mm-hmm. Like we've used it as a terminology. Forgive and forget. Right. But and that's good as long as you're really doing it. Are you really forgiving? I think it's forgive and suppress. It's not forget. It's really suppress, because like you said, if you're forgiving and you're forgiving and forgetting, you're dealing with that situation because it did happen. So it's not like you're forgetting and just casting it away. No, God cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. However, there is something that comes out of what you went through. The thing is, forgetting that pain that was there, because you dealt with it, and moving past it and not letting it traumatize you. I think people are suppressing it. And then something happens, and that's where you hear that word trigger. I was triggered. Well, you were triggered because you never dealt with it. Yeah, so they're acting like it. So I love that word suppress, because a lot of people are forgiving and suppressing. Forgiving and suppressing. A lot of people are doing that where they're not really dealing with it. They're just pushing it down. And I'm just going to move forward. And a lot lot of that is not even completely their fault. No. Because society tells you to do that. That's society tells you, keep it trucking, girl. Or keep it moving. As African American women. Right. You got it, girl. Keep it going. Go pray to Jesus. Go pray to Jesus. And it's like, yes, all of that is great. All of that is phenomenal. But it's okay to acknowledge the elephant in the room and say, I'm not happy. It's okay to acknowledge the elephant in the room and say, life is hard, or all these different things, because you trying to act like you're good doesn't make the situation better. But here's where they get it mixed up, even with the praying to Jesus. They go to Jesus and don't even mention it. But he tells them to lay all your burdens at my feet, right? Isn't that what God says? To lay your burden at my feet, and I will bring you rest. But when you come to me, you're not laying your burdens there. What you do is you put on a false face and say, I'm strong to God. And he's sitting there saying, but man, I know what you're going through. I was sitting right there when it happened. I was in the room with you. Let me know. He's a good father. He listens. See, a father listens. I watch my daughter and my son's relationship with their dad. They can talk to him. There was a time he was not mature enough to know, but now he's mature enough that he talks to them. He sits down. He has conversations. And I've looked at that model, and that's the same model I have with God. You guys go to your dad in respect. Don't get it twisted. But you're able to tell him, Dad, this is what's going on. This is how I feel. In respect. And I've learned to take that same model, because I didn't necessarily have that in my life. So I've learned to take that same model and take it to God.
God, I am not having an easy day today. Lord, I am anxious. I am fearful. I am scared. And I promise you, He always brings something back to me, either through the word or through someone in my life. That's why relationship is so important. Oh, well, that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about relationship another time. But yeah, it's important not to suppress, right? And I think 2020 taught all of us, when I talked about shaking the bones, God is shaking loose that suppression. And now we have to deal with it. But I think that's something we can take into 2021, how to deal with what we see when it comes.
Yeah. And I think it's about, as you look and you try to, reflect on how do you learn things and take that into 2021. I think the most important thing is to acknowledge. You can't learn anything and move forward if you don't acknowledge what has happened. Like if you try to cover it up, and that even goes to what you're saying with, we go to Christ, but we're not really going to Christ and telling Him things, which is always funny to me because He already knows.
Right.
So it's like, how can I hide anything? Because it says He knows even before you've done it. So it's like, what am I trying to hide? But I feel like that is, once again, that's their fault, but it's not completely their fault because society teaches you that, even with a parent, when you've made a mistake, society tells you, hey, you may not want to tell your mom because they're going to be mad at you.
Right.
This, that, and the third. So we learn to kind of, even with
tiptoe
our parents,
around it.
to tiptoe around the situation instead of coming straight forward. And that's even how people treat their relationship with God. We tiptoe around it because, like, okay, God know what happened.
And He's sitting right there.
Let alone know it.
Right.
He done watched you do it.
He's tapping his thumbs going, what?
He was like, girl, I knew you was going to do that.
I was chilling with you.
I knew you was going to do that 2,000 years ago.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's already written.
It's already there, honey, bunny. We good.
Right.
I need you to say that you did it. You know, and it's so interesting because we cannot move forward if we do not acknowledge what's happening.
That's right.
If we cannot acknowledge the situation, acknowledge the role that we played in it, acknowledge how we have caused situations to happen, how can you honestly move forward in 2021? You're going to bring the same baggage with you if you don't decide to let it go.
Amen.
So that's something that I feel like 2020 has not been all bad, even though it's been bad. So I'm not going to take away from it and tell people that 2020 has been a golden year.
Can we use a different word, though, instead of bad? Can we say it's been rough?
Okay.
Okay.
Rough, bad,
her word is bad.
Anxious.
My word is rough.
I mean, I'll call it like I see it, but whatever word you want to put in as, so let's do this. 2020 has been.
Yep.
And you comment what you feel like 2020 has been for you and why, and what you have learned. Because what I want people to take away is we can look at it two ways. I talked to a client and I told them it's all about perception, right? You can look at my bottle. Let me pull it out. You can look at my bottle. You can say glass half empty. I can look at my bottle and say bottle half full. It's all about your perception. It's about how you see it. So that's the same thing with 2020. You can look at your 2020 and look at all the negative things of 2020.
Right.
But I am a big believer that where there's negative, there is a positive. There may be one to the 20 negative, but there's a positive somewhere. So it's about how you look at it. So I feel like everybody, as you think about 2021, you need to reflect on 2020.
Yeah.
Not just the bad, but what have you learned? What has been your glass half full or your bottle half full for 2020? Because there's something there. And if you look at your glass half empty, acknowledge what has it taught you. Right. Because looking at the bad isn't necessarily a horrible thing, because there's always something we learn even in the negatives. Right. When negative things happen, we're learning something if you choose to learn something. When something has happened to me, I can look at it and just look at how bad it was, or I can look at it and say, okay, what has it taught me?
Right.
When I failed at something, I can look at it and say, oh, I failed. Or I can say, okay, what have I learned? So that way when I try it again, I'm more successful the next time. So I feel like as you go into 2021, think about what has 2020 been for you. Why has 2020 been like that for you? What is the glass half empty and the glass half full for your 2020? And how can you use those things that you've learned to help make 2021 a tad bit better than 2020 was? And that's how I feel.
All right. I feel the same way.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining into Sauce and Season. If you haven't noticed, we're trying a new platform now. We're trying YouTube to make it a little bit more accessible to all of our fellow viewers who want to chime in that may not be able to always be on Facebook or this platform or that platform. So we're trying YouTube. And so make sure that you make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you share with other people, and make sure you just come back.
Yeah. Come back.
Come back to Sauce.
Oh, she trying to make a jingle. No.
Nah, I'm lying.
We ain't jingly people.
I was lying. But thank you for joining in with us as we talked about, what 2020 has been for us and how we can make our 2021 better. And we are planning and working to make sure that we continue to be consistent now, especially now that things have kind of died down and we got a little roll going on with our business a little bit more, that we come back with some consistency for sausage season and give you some things. So as you even like everything, make sure you also comment, some topics that you may want us to touch on or things that you just feel like could be important for us to talk about. And we will be happy to look it over and come back with some fresh content, especially as we approach lovely 2021. So thank you for watching and y'all enjoy your lovely days.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
So we both want to thank you for listening in today and want to encourage you to go and like our Facebook page and Instagram page, Sauce and Season, if you haven't already. On both platforms, you will find a post titled Today's Podcast, and we would love for you to go under there and post your thoughts and feelings regarding this week's podcast and also encourage others to listen in. We hope that you were blessed in some way with today's podcast and hope that you join us again for the next podcast.